okay.
What's up, dude?
No, that doesn't interfere.
It doesn't bother me. Does it bother you?
No, not at all.
All right.
Will it bother the listeners?
No. So, the one and only BJ Baldwin.
That's right. They tried to clone me, but they've been unsuccessful.
They can't. When they made you, they broke the mold and they destroyed the batter. So what's going on, man?
Not much. Just been real busy. Been doing a lot of other things outside of my competitive motorsports world of just focusing on competition and winning races and stuff.
So we're fresh off SHOT Show 2, which I know shooting is something you're passionate about, and you enjoy the sport of shooting, and you enjoy collecting, and you have a monstrous collection, maybe one of the biggest civilian collections in Las Vegas.
It's pretty big. Yeah, there's a few guys that have a lot more.
Yeah, there's a few, but they're not as public about it, and they're not as outspoken about it as you are. But you enjoy it. You love it.
I do. I mean, for the most part, since I was 18, I just bought something that I thought was cool every year for my birthday and Christmas, and then, it just kind of adds up, and then certain companies, certain rifle manufacturers will give me rifles to test out, and I've just built it up over the years. I always wanted to have, more than anything, kind of like that Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibe where they have how it has a basement, everything's super well lit, and have a walk-in safe like that. I always thought that was really cool.
What is it about the gun industry you love, and what is it about the gun industry you hate?
Well, I'll start with what I hate. It's similar to the off-road industry, but I think it's a little bit more an accelerated version of that in the sense that it's kind of cannibalistic. You have one thing that the gun industry does have is SHOT Show, for example. I don't go to SHOT to look at all the cool, neat stuff. At the end of the day, I really only fuck with a couple things. I train with my everyday carry, and then I train with what I have in place for home defense in terms of a rifle, 10-inch AR suppressed, and that's the extent of really what I shoot. I really just try to better my skill set on those two platforms. So I don't really go to SHOT to look at all the new stuff. I see the new stuff here and there, but really I go to SHOT to hang out with all the people that I really only get a chance to see once a year, and that's all my buddies that are former Special Forces guys, Army Rangers, Marines, SEAL Team guys, and they're all the highest quality, best people on the planet, in my opinion, to put themselves in harm's way to defend this nation.
Now you get an opportunity to test out and use so much cool shit. And of course, you have a long-standing relationship with so many brands, including Galotech, which we both, love Brent and his setups. What companies do you look at, and how do you look at them, and what's kind of the criteria? You're you kind of look from afar like I do. You say, geez, I really like what they're doing. What is it you're looking for when you look at those brands?
You know what? I've had a relationship with Silencer Co. for several years now.
He was there, some great guys.
Yeah, some great guys over there. I've had a relationship with some of the people from Falcor Defense. Melinda, she's great, and her husband, they're awesome. They've been super, super cool. Known them for a lot of years. And then, obviously, I'm dating Tori for 4 years. I've had a relationship with some of the people at Glock, and they've always been really cool. Michelle and Shane and Ashley. It's always nice to see them and talk to them, and they're just fantastic world-class athletes like Tori is.
Yeah, when you get the opportunity to work closely with subject matter experts, with those people, just being around them and feeding off them, and especially now Tori all the time, you get that unique insight into what makes people choose the platforms that they choose and why they choose them, and how to build out your kit, or what makes you say like, geez, this is something that I really like, or this is something I enjoy. It's people from the outside or don't get that type of view into the industry, don't fully understand what goes on in your mind and why you choose the things you choose. But you brought up knowing Rangers, Special Forces, knowing a lot of guys in law enforcement. You get a different insight into why you choose the things you choose to put in your bag, in plain English. You know, why you pick the things you pick, and right down to the holster. And this is something I was talking about with Sean Burrows, and talking about with Amy 556 I had on the other day. There's a lot of thought that goes into it that we take for granted because it's years of fucking up and making mistakes and choosing the wrong shit. But people don't understand that it's a process, and you shoot some of the wrong stuff for a long time. It starts to lead you down the path of saying, I want to choose good gear and I want to have good gear.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's very similar in terms of, you know, my 2 decades of experience in off-road motorsports is you kind of get what you pay for. I always use it like the garlic mincer example. You know, me and my ex at the time were making this chicken that's like super awesome. It's a recipe that she had from the family, and we're buying like all these materials when I moved into my new house several years ago. And we got a garlic mincer, and it's like $3.99. I wanted to get the one that was like $9.99 because it wasn't like, I could tell just by looking at it, just by building stuff, you know, my whole life, and in terms of race cars and helping put stuff together, that it's a piece of shit. And no, I want to get this one. She argued with me, waste too much money, blah blah blah. And we went through 3 of the $4 garlic mincers before we finally bought the 10. So we ended up paying like $26 or whatever for the $10 one. And then the same goes with anything. And obviously you can get ripped off, but for the most part you get what you pay for. And you know, a lot of people ask me about setups and certain things that I have extended knowledge about, and they're like, well, I'll just get this for now, and then I'll get that. So instead of getting this $500 part of this $500 platform, they're going to get this, comparing it to like optics. You know, instead of getting this $500 optic, they choose to get this $200 optic for now, and then later they're going to get the $500. And I always tell them, why are you going to pay $750 for a $500 optic? You know, you're gonna
end there anyway.
You're gonna end there anyways, and it's gonna last forever. The $250 part, just throw it in the fucking fireplace.
One thing, you know, and you're absolutely right. One thing about you that I think, I don't know if it's both industries, mainly even in the firearms industry, but especially in off-road racing, that I've always been from afar admired in you, is you've always been true to the brands you support. And it's always been Monster out in front. It's been, we brought up Galotech, we brought up other brands. It's always, you've been true to the brands you support. And that's something that I think a lot of guys that want to do the Instagram thing, or gals that want to do the social media thing, or even want to venture into maybe making money in these businesses, don't fully understand that you can't be hopping around and be around 10, 15, 20 brands. It's not going to work. You've always had some nice continuity with Monster in the center of it all and everything else. And that's something I think a lot of people, when they look at you, they take for granted, and they don't understand that that's a process, and that's part of failing and making the mistakes, and then understanding that you have to come home to these brands and these people. What advice would you give people that, you know, they come into these industries, whether it's off-road racing or shooting, and they hop around and they're in 50 brands, they have no identity, you know what I mean? And they hold themselves up.
I've got great advice as it relates to that, because I've got a lot of experience in it. You don't really want to be like kind of for lack of a brand whore. It was exactly what I was going to say. You know, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and I get that, but the end goal is to have a very what you want is a long marriage, you know, with a company that you believe in. Because, you know, if you're promoting and supporting a company that you don't believe in, people are going to see right through it. And I've had to do that before, and if people can read between the lines, they can tell the difference. But you know, at the end of the day, if you want to be somebody that promotes a certain brand, or a brand ambassador, or somebody that supports something, it should be worth it regardless of the financial commitment that brand brings to the table. And if you're going, okay, I'm over here now, this is who I support. I'm over here now, this is who I support. No, everybody's gonna think that you're full of shit, and you're
a merc at that
Yeah,
point.
exactly. So even if I'm unhappy with somebody that I've supported, I've tried to make it work. I've tried to better their brand. I've tried to advise them on how they should do certain things and their views as it relates to certain things, or how they can improve their product. If it doesn't work out, then I leave. A perfect example, and here's another thing: you don't want to throw anybody under the bus, regardless of. You don't want to burn any bridges. I've only burnt one bridge in my entire motorsports career, and I just had to do that recently. They actually burned the bridge for me. It was a UTV company, but I'm with Polaris now, and I'm very happy about that. But you don't ever want to burn bridges, because they might appreciate what you did, notice an absence in their marketing and their promotion once you've left, and you might be able to return, and they might be able to see what they lost. For example, I was with a tire company for 4 years, and they were great for me. It was my introduction into becoming a successful, self-sustaining motorsports program, as opposed to somebody that's, like a hobbyist or somebody that is a privateer team. That was my end goal. A motorsports program that makes money, and that could be my career, my living. So I had to promote a company's tires that were not the best tires. They were actually far from it. But I was willing to work with them if they were going to continue developing their tire. And they did some changes, some very small changes, but at the end of the road, when it came to renew my contract, because of all the promotion that they did for me and them joining forces, I landed Monster around this about 2 years ago. They joined forces with Monster to promote and market me and my program. So Monster kind of had the digital aspect through social, and this other company had it in print, magazines, and stuff like that. I was able to create a little bit of leverage and say, hey, listen, this is what I need in a tire. You guys are doing this incorrectly. I need this to be different in terms of size. And they decided that they didn't want to do it because it was going to cost $1 million, which is really, really cheap in comparison to how much they've lost, because they don't have a product that they can put on any unlimited production racetrack and be competitive. So I had to leave. I went to Toyo Tires, and right off the bat I won the Baja 1000 the first year I was on Toyo, and then I won it again the following year, as well as the championship. And I've had a lot of success with Toyo. And at the end of the day, you want to have long-lasting relationships, and you want to make your marketing partners as happy as possible and feel like they underpaid and undercommitted for what they got at.
And I'm glad you brought up a lot of really good points. Like, people have said to me in the past, I've talked up Vortex a lot. People say, why do you like them? I go, it's not the products they have now, it's where they're going. I'm like, they're a company that has progressed so much, literally 100% improvements year over year in the product, the quality, the things that they put out there. Yes, they're not a Trigicon today. Yes, they're not some of those products, but it's where they're going that's made them so successful. And sometimes people need to understand that it's okay to be with a smaller brand as long as you can stay on the same page, and that's hard to do. I feel your pain with that. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's just okay. Along the way, the bridge only gets burned if, like you said, the partner doesn't fully understand what you're taking. Sometimes you just have to go your separate ways and then come back together. Yeah. And sometimes that just happens in business and in life. You just have to be like, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. You have to be an adult about it, and you have to go your own way. It's the people, and you brought up something that's really important to me, and I talked about it on 100 podcasts. You can't have people around you that are just bridge burners. whether it's in friendship, in life, in business, and we all have them.
Yeah.
We all have them. And sometimes you just have to be like, dude, I get what you're saying, but it's not how I roll. I'm cool with everybody. I can't have that in my life, because you never know where somebody's going to end up. And more often than not, it's the most persistent motherfuckers that end up somewhere and end up doing something, and you never know how that's going to shake out. So you don't want to have people around you that are burning bridges. Because I said it to somebody one time, and he's somebody we both may know. I was like, look, dude, you're burning a lot of bridges. You're going to end up on an island. It gets lonely on those islands.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And it gets, and you try to just be straight with homies, and you're like,
Yeah.
I love you, I'll never hurt you, but I can't help you, because you're going to be alone on that island, and you just can't, I can't rescue you. There's nobody there, and you're on your own. You're going to find a life raft off. If you do great, I'll be the first one to be there, but you're on your own. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, whether it's with a brand, whether it's with a friend, whether it's whoever it's with. And I'm the same way. I'm just like, is this person building bridges, or are they burning? And that's the biggest thing. And you just have to be that way, because you never know where someone's going to end up, who's going to be in charge of what, who's going to have a say, and you have to approach life that way. There's too many people out there that just want to see the world burn, and you can't approach life like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it should be about not being a fucking asshole. And there's too many people that don't consider that. You should always try to be, the better person, and try and help people, and maintain connections and have a good networking. It was something that I struggle with, because I have so many different lines of communication coming at different angles. But I'm definitely working on that. But at the end of the day, again, spread kindness, spread love. Don't be a jerk. And you'll be able, if you just live by those principles, you'll be able to build relationships and maintain them, and it'll be good for your career if marketing is the path that you've chosen in representing other companies.
I try to dissuade people from it. I try to tell people all the time, whether it's like, and you know more about the racing community than you do the gun world. I try to tell people all the time, if you're in this to make money, unless you just like you do in racing, unless you cash a check in the defense industry, don't go down that road. You're not going to get rich. Yeah. And you do it more as a hobbyist in so many ways. The car stuff, the racing stuff, is more what drives the engine, so to speak. Yeah. But I try to tell people, unless you're going to be insanely consistent, because nowadays when people come up to me, whether it's in a company capacity, and they say, well, I have an Instagram, I'm like, that's not enough. Yeah. What else you got? You got to have your hand in so many different things, and you have to be multifaceted. Because if you're going to make money and you think it's just going to be off Instagram, I tell people, you're crazy. There's just no way. Unless you have 5 million followers, or you're really moving the needle. And now, because companies are getting too savvy to it, too wise to it, they understand that it's just not enough. You have to have your hand in so many pots. What advice do you give people that are like, hey, BJ, I want to become a racing, I want to get, yeah, it's just like, you want to say no, right?
Well, yeah, that's the number one question that I get. I get, what holster do you run? What optic do you run? What's your concealed carry? Yeah, EDC all the time. And then the number one question that I get will either be, what should I do? I just bought